Alright. Give me chocolate and nobody gets hurt. Have any of you ever just craved chocolate? You just love chocolate so much. Any of you love chocolate? Well, I know I do, and I definitely crave dark chocolate. So today I'm going to highlight the health benefits of dark chocolate and where it comes from. I am a chocoholic, and I love learning about chocolate in all of its forms, and therefore I'd like to share with you what I have found. I'm pretty positive that we all have had chocolate, and if we've had dark chocolate, we've probably fallen in love with it. So I'm going to explain to you what dark chocolate is, where it comes from, and its health benefits. To start us off, I'm going to tell you what dark chocolate really is. In order for dark chocolate to be dark, it has to have at least 70% of cocoa in it. And cocoa actually comes from the cocoa tree, which produces pods that hold beans. In here, obviously this is the pod, and then all over in here is the cocoa beans, and they end up going, once the pods are collected, the beans are extracted, and then they go off to be roasted. And I was lucky enough to find this, because it breaks it down, the process from the cocoa bean all the way down to the product. Obviously it's roasted first, and then it's pressed for liqueur. Mainly, most of it ends up being split into half. That doesn't make sense. But it splits into half. So the cocoa butter usually gets mixed with milk and sugar to create other products. And then cocoa cake is basically the leftovers smushed into this huge slab of just pure cocoa. And then it's broken up into ground cocoa, and that creates cocoa powder. Since dark chocolate has to have at least 70% of cocoa in it to be called dark chocolate, it's actually very crucial to our health because it allows the release of flavonoids, and I'll explain what those are later. Since we now know what dark chocolate is, here are the major health benefits of this wonderful indulgence. It gives you a healthier heart. Multiple studies have proved that chocolate reduces blood pressure, increases the flexibility of veins and arteries, and it cuts down the risk of stroke and heart attack. And the flavonoids that I mentioned just a moment ago, they actually keep the cholesterol from gathering in the blood vessels. It also helps reduce the risks of blood clots and slow down the immune responses that lead to clogged arteries. So obviously, if you consume dark chocolate, you'll have a nice, beautiful artery like the top. And if you don't, and you don't watch all the other foods that you're going to be consuming, your arteries will end up looking like this, and it could lead to a heart attack. And you definitely do not want that. So, also there was a study conducted by Kirk Taubert, an MD and PhD, of the University Hospital of Cologne in Germany. He assessed the effects of the low regular amounts of cocoa on blood pressure. The trial was conducted between January 2005 and December of 2006, and this included 44 adults, ages 56 to 73 years, 24 women and 20 men. With untreated upper range hypertension, prehypertension, the blood pressure ranged between 130/85 to 139/89. Or stage 1 hypertension, which includes the blood pressure being 140/90 and 160 to over 100. The participants were randomly assigned to receive for 18 weeks either 1.3 grams, which is 30 calories a day of dark chocolate containing 30 milligrams of polyphenols, or matching polyphenol-free white chocolate. White chocolate is actually made from cocoa butter. There's no actual cacao in white chocolate, so that's why it's not as beneficial at all, because it's mixed with milk and sugar. Another health benefit of dark chocolate is that it actually helps improve diabetes. In a small Italian study conducted by Claudio Ferri, MD, participants who ate a dark chocolate candy's worth a day for 15 days, they saw that the potential for insulin resistance dropped by nearly half. Also, I'm sure you've all heard that dark chocolate holds a lot of antioxidants, but if you were to consume dark chocolate with milk, the effects can be diluted and you're not going to be getting the full beneficial antioxidants that dark chocolate can provide for you. So therefore I have I've told you about where cocoa has come from, where dark chocolate is made of, what dark chocolate is made of, and it's chocolate. So go get some dark chocolate. Thank you.
All right, Tanner, what did you think?
I thought she had a good attention grabber, a clear thesis, and organization in the body. She had good visuals and explained them very well. She wasn't facing the screen when she was talking about the visuals. She had great statistics on the blood pressure, and so the things that she could probably do better on is maybe conclude it a little better. But overall, I thought it was a pretty good presentation.
Yeah, a lot of very solid things in the speech. Let's talk about some of the technical stuff. The topics identified very clearly, and you've got a very solid preview of what the content is going to be. So I thought that was good. Your attention device was fine. I think you needed a little bit more lead in as you got to the topic to pull us in. So I kind of like the threat statement quote that you have there, as a start. But I think there needs to be a little bit more follow-up before you get to the topic, so it would work more effectively. Also, a little bit more justification as you develop the speech. It's pretty good. At the beginning, I think you could use a little bit more on the content. I thought you did a good job with a lot of supporting material in several places. Maybe you could have used a little bit more in that first point, but in the last point you had a lot of reference to the study that you're talking about. When you get to the description of the whole process and you have the flow chart up there that you're showing us, I think that might have been a good place to have one of those long quotes that goes through the process, because you're trying to describe it for us. And I don't know that it comes out as clearly as it would have if you had something that you were taking from a text that described that process. I think you also needed to add a little bit more personality into it, like you had at the beginning, to draw us in, to make it more interesting, giving us a story, some personal observations. Maybe giving us a little historical context on things occasionally, because once we get to the second and third sections, it seems to be very technical oriented. Here's the chocolate, here's what gives it all those advantages, and here's the study that shows those kinds of things. And I think it loses a little personality there. And this is a subject that ought to, draw people in. It ought to melt in their mouth. Not in their hands, that kind of thing. There ought to be a little bit more persona to it. So there's nothing that's wrong per se, just things that I think you could do a little bit better. The visuals, the flow chart that you had has way too many processes in it. And believe it or not, even though it's on the screen, it's still small because there are so many things there. So it's one of those things that probably needed to be broken down into a couple of visuals, or simplified a little bit and say, let's just look at 5 or 6 of these steps instead of my having all 17 or 18 of these things up at once, which got to be a little bit complicated. I thought that your delivery of the speech was better in the early parts of the speech. As you got later into the speech, and maybe that's because you're having to reference the study that you're talking about, you talked to us less and less and did a lot more reading. And I didn't think it was so much because you were intimidated by the audience, because you did okay at the beginning of the speech, like I said. I think it's probably one of those things where you need some practice, and once you know the material a little bit better, and it won't feel so much like you're reading, but you want to be aware of those things. Like I said, that's not a huge part of this particular element of the assignment. All right, thank you.